And a pleasant evening, everybody. I'm Zach Hughes. This is Hot Topics. I am going to be your host, and we have a show for you tonight. I'm probably going to be on a little shorter tonight, but I want to still do a show. And I was hoping to do it last night, but I wasn't able to do it. Um, okay, so jumping right in here. Let's talk about something that I was inspired to talk about this week. And I have talked about this in the past. Um, but I want to talk about it more because um, we, the Central Vermont, the old, well, it used to be called Vermont, Central Vermont VOTEC Center, and it is now the Central Vermont Technical Center or something like that. Um, and that's going to be up for a vote on a bond, I believe, November 4th. Um, and I just want to talk about something I put down because there is just a lot of different viewpoints in on the forums, and so I put it out there, and I said, well, I guess it depends what the community values. So when I talk about, and I got a reply back saying, it's not that we don't value the children's education, um, or even, excuse me, even the improved education. Um, I have to say values are really important here. We talk about value. I talked about this on previous shows, and it's because I'm challenging people to think about what they value in their communities without the clutter. So my issue is simply this. I'm asking people to think about when we have all kinds of goods and services, what do you value on that? I know living here in Montpelier, the citizenry has valued every single service because they vote for it every year. There has not been a there has not been a downed budget for a very long time here. And one of the things that I found interesting is when you know, and I do love debate because debate's really important. I think when people say they don't do debates, they're missing a lot. Um, you know, and so this was an interesting conversation I was having, and basically my phrase of it depends what you value, because I'm challenging the voters to understand the values of this, and there is all kinds of reasoning not to do it, and maybe there's uncertainty, but there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. There's always been, um, and so we look at that. Um, but I'm looking at it from a bigger lens, and I've talked about this for some time. Um, and it has to do with what are you willing to, invest in. We talked about this in, for example, homelessness um, and other services within the state, and starting to feel this. Some stressors with these that these services actually cost money. They're not cheap. We're talking about different things. But my take of value. So I used this phrase of what do you value as early as my attempt to run for city council. Um, and it was meant to get people to think about what they would like to see. Um, And, I think that that phrase is a realistic phrase. And I do appreciate the reply I got, which was, yeah, it's not that we don't value it. But it is in a sense because, it's not a priority. It's not, let's be realistic. If you don't, you're going to claim you don't have the money to pay for something, that's fine. Let's just put it out there. Um, and you're just going to say that's not a priority because it really isn't. So whether it's paying for a bond for a technical center or it's investing in homelessness a little bit, the homeless situation, or providing preventative services, whatever works. Um, Bottom line is um, priorities are important here. So that is what I mean when I'm talking about that. And I think that that's a real, and yes, I agree with this individual that this time is very uncertain right now. We don't know what's going to happen here. There's all kinds of different uncertainties here. And probably one of the most uncertain times. So I will give that to that person. So let's talk. We'll continue to look at but consider for a minute, what do you value in on both the local and state levels, as and even federal level if you want. But I'm looking at local and state levels about value. You um, Priorities. One of the things that I did here in the forums is about affordability and being able to afford to pay for these things, and it's through the taxes and landowners paying through this, through taxes, and that's definitely legitimate. Um, but the question talks. Then you are faced with priorities, and that's really what I was getting at. I'm not um, trying to get at anything else. Okay, let's check in on the government shutdown right now. We are in, let me think here. My goodness, I think it is going to be day 13 now of the shutdown. And there doesn't appear to be any end in sight. And we're starting to see certain things show. One of the things we're starting to see is some air traffic controllers are calling out. Now, let me talk to you about air traffic controlling. It is a very stressful job, so you can imagine trying to go and do it unpaid. Because, as I said in our last show, most of the folks on the federal roll right now are going unpaid right now until this thing opens back up. And then they get reimbursed. But there's a little bit of a hitch there, might be a hitch there as well, because they're trying to figure out a way. There was some talk about some people not getting that back pay. So we're going to have to wait and see on that. But the bottom line is, right now, people should be getting that back pay in accordance with the 2019 law that was passed. The other thing about this, though, is there are firings that are occurring. So there are things going on right now, and we're worried about, just want to put some context into this right now. This continues to be about the healthcare premiums going up sky high. And yes, I do understand that. But, as this drags on, we're going to see other things start to become affected like we did last time. One of the things that came out that I was reading, I am not surprised, is that Social Security had indicated that this might cause them to not be able to assist in certain ways. We're going to wait and see how that plays out. But as we go along, your services will be impacted. I just want you to be aware of that as we keep rolling along. Um, the vast majority of air traffic controllers are reporting in right now. They are directing your planes if you're flying right now. They're directing your plane safely, and they're doing it unpaid right now. This is something that, and the same goes with the military. Although there is an attempt to see if they can get them paid. But the bottom line is, what really needs to happen is that this needs to end so we can get back to it. And I'm not sure how long this is going to hold out. And I appreciate this, but I think this was done at the wrong time. I still believe that, and you know, I, um, but there are those who disagree with me. But we'll wait and see. Right now, we're seeing some light stuff going on as far as you know impacts, and we're going to continue to watch this. Okay, well, let's get into some other stuff. So, interestingly, um, this is this day is Columbus Day, but it is known in Vermont and several other states as uh, Indigenous Peoples Day. Amazing difference. People say, well, it's called Columbus Day. Well, not ex- and it is on the federal level still, I believe, called Columbus Day, and in some states it may still be called Columbus Day. Here in Vermont, it's called Indigenous Peoples Day. Um, and yet, in my mind, I still call it Columbus Day, just because it's what has been known for decades. Um, I find this very interesting. How I was thinking about this today, and how the narrative was, that Columbus discovered the world, um, New World, although he actually discovered islands, not the United States part, or the future United States part. Um, but but it's the real story of what happened with Columbus and him actually being returned uh, back to he was returned in shame because of the way he treated people in the New World, and I'm being kind of polite there when I say treated, because it was a lot worse. But this is why we don't call it Columbus Day. Okay, so I just wanted to just say that that is part of that. Um, yeah. So let's um, let's take a quick look at self care, um, and see how people are doing with it this week. I managed to get some stuff done here in the apartment. Still tootling along with some things, and got some final fall pictures done. Um, because we are closing out on the foliage. I feel like this weekend usually is the closeout of that. Although, I did manage to do my yearly tradition, go up to the college and do that. So, I definitely managed to do that, and so it was really cool. One of my hobbies is taking pictures. It's like a form of art for me, and I really enjoy doing it. Um, you know, and also when I travel, I like to do that too. I mean, it's really cool. I think I got like over 100 fall pictures this year, easily. Um, And I managed to do this yesterday as well. And then the weather, of course, turned into rain today and all that, you know, kind of changed over. But yeah, um, so I mean, it's a lot of excitement there. Okay, let me switch over. There was another topic I wanted to cover, and I didn't write that in here because I had to redo the show for tonight, or repost it anyway. But I hope your self care is going okay. Let's talk about something really exciting here. Not really, but um, imagine you've gone and you've worked in the office for many decades of your life. You were doing it before you went to a workplace, and you did it. Your parents did it. Your grandparents did it, and their grandparents did it, and everyone else did. But suddenly, the introduction makes it possible because of COVID. We have the introduction of remote work that you can actually work from anywhere, theoretically, through your technology. Imagine that. You won't need to go to the office anymore. And many of you are saying, of course, Zach, I already knew that, right? Well, yes, but are you accepting that? Is some of you willing to accept that as possibly the new norm of business these days? And that is a question that um, that our state has answered a little bit, and they're not really willing to fully accept that it's a new culture, um, because they are requiring workers to come back a few days a week starting in December. So I wanted to talk about this workplace culture of this new norm, being able to remotely do it, work from home or work from wherever. Um, I had learned that there were some workers working out of state. Um, so um, let's talk about this because there were so many, for many years, we're so used to being going to the office. I used to work for the state, and I had to go to work at an office. There was no remote back then. You couldn't do that. And it's done for many years. But then COVID came along and changed everything. We have Zoom, we have the technology, we have this here. Um, but the question's going to be, are people going to accept these return to the office directives? Or are they going to find new jobs that give them what they want, which is the remote flexibility? And that is the big question. And what do you think? Do you think people should return to the office full time or a few days a week or at all for that matter? Tell me what you think. And you can do it after the show by, or in this comments while we're talking here. But after the show, you can actually put it in the comments out in the when you access the show, there'll be a comment area, um, because this isn't going to be a live chat after the show's done. So I don't know what you might think about this idea, but we've all had this workplace culture in us that we go to work, we go somewhere. There's some jobs, of course, that you cannot do remote work, like obviously anything having to do with direct care or service, where you're providing direct service care, like I was at one time, and you have to go do that. You cannot do it by a remote. Now, people are going to say to me, well, people are just going to, workplaces have to accept this. But do they? Some workplaces have instituted return to work policies. Um, the state, in my view, we can argue about commute and illness, and we can argue that, but in the bottom of the line, we're looking to go back to something that's interesting. Now, we've heard all kinds of arguments from different um, corners. Um, the biggest one is around the savings that a remote work has done, and the ability of people to probably reduce their, for instance, their footprint. Um, and the commute issue around commuting, and you can do the work from, the current technology. But then there needs to be that in person piece. And where do you put that in? I know one place that was doing a full remote process. I don't know where they're at now, but everything was being done by remote. They'd actually gotten rid of their office space they had going for this program that they were doing, and suddenly everyone was working remote, and I wondered what that was like, because I was used to working remotely, but limitedly during COVID. So I'm not the type to always work remotely. I'm kind of a person that likes to move around. I don't have one office space. I don't have one workspace. I just move around. That's how I like to do things. But not everybody's like that. There are people who are just have gotten used to this remote stuff and are feeling broadsided. Um, One of the people I had read about had said he had gotten this job with the state, understanding that he could work remotely, and he felt broadsided by this policy. So we're going to have to just wait and see. Again, this will start out in December. And it's only a few days a week. It's not a full time requirement, which is good. I think that's a good thing, right? Um, but it is a few days a week, so people are just kind of trying to get used to this, and we'll see how many actually stay put. Because again, there's a question of whether folks are going to be willing to accept this change, and we're going to see. Um, because again, there is this new normal. After COVID and after technology, you had Zoom, you have Meet, you have all kinds of different technology platforms you can access. Um, and it's just amazing to see this kind of play out. And I thought I'd talk about it because, and boy, does that change things. I mean, it just it's boggling to believe that for many decades, you go to an office or a workspace. I don't think there was ever, I mean, if you did work from home, there was a different way of doing it. But going to an office space or a work site was understandable. Now, I will say that, I was pretty used to, I did work from home when I was younger, and it was because the phone line we ran was a warm, like a peer line for a number of years, was run out of people's homes. Um, it was, you know, networked from a call center to their homes, directly forwarded. So they never had to leave their homes. And we went to, maybe a meeting or two once in a while. But our workspaces when I was younger was in our homes. But my first major job was actually was at Department of Motor Vehicles for 2 months. I don't know what I was thinking, by the way. Um, yeah, I could have done anything. It was a summer job program, and I could have asked to do any job, and I didn't think. And I was, yeah. Anyway, did the summer job at D&B. Um, and that was an office. So you go there every day. There was no, I'm going to file my forms from home. And this was, you know, way, this was like 22 years before COVID came along. Okay. So just to give you an idea. And everyone I knew had a workspace. You couldn't, it wasn't always possible to, unless you had, as I said, a home based job. So I think what is interesting here is people are just used to this, being able to work from home. But tell me what you think about working from home. And I'm going to put that in the um, question in the Hot Topics Facebook. Um, because I think it's really just important to look at that. Yeah, and I'm hoping to get this show kind of the viewership up a little bit in the show, but we'll get there. Um, I am doing it on YouTube now because it is a lot easier for me for a couple reasons. So I will be doing it from here. So we'll keep an eye on all that. Okay, folks. Let's see. Okay, so folks, I appreciate your time tonight. I think I'm going to wrap it up. But I will be back here on oh, what happened? Oh, I lost connection. That's what happened. I don't even know if I'm still live. We'll find out. Okay, folks. You know what? Before I lose the signal, I'm Zach Hughes, and this has been Hot Topics. And guess what? I'm out of here. All right. We'll see y'all next week.